what we're going to talk about here, if you don't know, we're going to talk about organic versus automation, or, basically paid strategies versus free strategies. And what is the best way, the right way for you to build your business is essentially what the topic of discussion here is going to be. I'm just making sure everything is working. Looks like we are. Hello, everybody. Type me in the chat. Number one, if you guys can hear me and see me, and we will get going with organic versus automated, or free versus paid. What strategy works better? What's going to be best for you? And okay, Anita says she can hear me, so fantastic. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Fernie Ceballos. I'm the co-founder here at attractionmarketing.com, along with my mentor, Tim Irway. We have the longest legacy here in the network marketing space on building network marketing businesses online, not only just using social media, but also outside of social media, which I'll touch on here in just a moment. I actually discovered this exact community back in 2006, about a year after it was founded by my mentor, Mike Dillard, and Tim Irway. My mentors actually were the first to introduce me to a way of building online that I had never seen before. And within 2 years of discovering attraction marketing, what we teach here, I was able to not only quit my job, but become a six-figure earner in my network marketing company, and have since devoted a lot of time not only towards building my own businesses, but helping other people build their businesses as well. Especially, when you're taught a strategy that you don't feel authentic using, that is maybe deceptive, or you just can't sustain it. Maybe you're an introvert and can't sustain doing the old school way, bugging friends and family, or even doing cold outreach to strangers on social media. If that's you, drop me number 5 in the chat, that you're here looking for alternatives, and you are welcome here. Because that's what we do. And in fact, in 2014, I was actually invited to become a partner in this company by my mentor, Tim Irway. Tim Irway is somebody that was building network marketing businesses as early as 2001 using the internet. So that's over 20 years ago, building a downline using the internet. In fact, he enrolled over 1,700 people in 30 days using nothing but automation back when that was unheard of. And of course, the idea of doing that was like network marketing blasphemy, but he did it. And he had a student named Mike Dillard, who then he influenced, and that student ended up founding this company. Back then it was called Magnetic Sponsoring. And when it was rebranded as attractionmarketing.com, I was brought in as a partner to support him in continuing this legacy. So that is a little bit of our background. We've literally have had thousands of students, now thousands, that have produced 6, 7, and 8-figure incomes as a result of the stuff we've taught them over the past 20 plus years here at attractionmarketing.com. No one else in the world can basically claim such a record, but we've had that impact. In fact, many of the people you see online that seem to be omnipresent, you see everywhere on social media, are either our students of our students, or students of our students, if they're in fact building a network marketing business or have ever built a network marketing business online in some way. So I'm glad you're all here. And what I want to talk about is basically one of the, now that, back when I first got started building network marketing businesses online, there was only one way to do it, because there was no social media back then. You could only really build it using automated strategies. You had to do advertising, you had to build funnels, and some of you guys might not know what those things are, but you've definitely seen it. If you're in this community, you probably have seen it, or you see an ad, you click, then something is offered in exchange for your contact information, and then you like subscribe, and then the process goes on from there. That's what a funnel is. It's more of an automated lead generation and sales process that allows you to attract leads and collect your contact information, but not only that, it allows you to create a relationship through video, through email, through content like what we're doing here. Many of you are here as a result of the funnel. So that was the first and only thing that was available to me back then. Then social media started coming around, and there were a lot more opportunities to, instead of doing advertising, to do things that are free strategies. And they didn't require you to spend money on advertising, but it required you to like engage on social media. And ultimately, people were able to use social media in and of itself without any website to be able to enroll new customers and enroll team members. But there's no such thing as a perfect strategy, because even though they were doing that through social media, for some of those folks, it led to burnout. And so I want to address that. So, if building purely organically could lead to burnout, especially if you're an introvert, but then automated strategies tend to like require a little more of a ramp up for learning new skills that you might not be familiar with, then which way is the right way to go for you? So if you guys have ever asked yourself, what's the right way for me to build my business, drop me number 7 in the chat, because we're going to have a discussion that's going to help you understand more clearly what is ideally the best strategy for you. And the best strategy for you might not be the strategy you start with, but it should be ultimately the strategy you end up with. And so, because everybody has to start somewhere. And so that's what we're going to talk about here. In fact, I want to introduce a concept here before I get into any specifics on how to build a network marketing business organically, free or paid, automated or not. I want to actually introduce a concept called the leverage yield quadrant, that was something that was invented by my mentor, Tim Irway. And he talks about the leverage yield quadrant, and this is what it looks like. So essentially the part of yield has to do with results. So you can, say, put in quotes, or not quotes, but in parentheses, what does yield mean? It means the results you produce. And obviously the higher you go here, the more results you are getting. And then the leverage quadrant has to do with basically time. How much time does this thing take you? But it's time in inverse, because the more leverage you have, actually, the less time something requires of you to produce a result. And then the less leverage, the more time. So that's what this quadrant means. And this quadrant has 4 areas. You have the startup zone. This is where everybody starts. Everybody is always going to start in this quadrant no matter what. But then, depending on the strategy you may choose, you may end up starting in the startup zone, and maybe you choose to do organic strategies, quote unquote free strategies, where you're investing more of your time, instead of investing money to attract prospects to you. So that means you're doing or some sort of a social engagement of some kind. And so you can go from the startup phase to this phase right here into the hustle zone, where you start producing results, and you can start producing results pretty quickly. But if you stay in the hustle zone too long, this can lead to burnout. It can lead to, especially if you're more introverted, it can lead to you just generally being unhappy because you're using even though you're getting results and making money, pretty soon the excitement around making money and getting results fades because so much of your time is required. And so this is what happens to a lot of many sometimes six-figure earners who end up building in an organic way through sheer hustle. But then as their business grows, the more of their time the business requires, and the more they're ultimately more likely to reach burnout. And so you don't want to stay in the hustle zone. There's nothing wrong with the hustle zone, but you don't want to stay there too long. You want to go into the freedom zone. But the only way to go into the freedom zone is to create more leverage so that the business requires less of your time. And ultimately, what allows you to go into the freedom zone is systems. Systems allow you to move into the freedom zone because systems create leverage. So if you're a leader with a big team and you're like at the verge of burnout, that means you probably lack effective systems for supporting your team so that your business requires less and less of your time. Or if you are a leader doing a lot of recruiting and your business is dependent on you continuing to remain active in recruiting and connecting with people on social media, etc. Well, eventually you're gonna burn out. And what happens when you burn out is your results actually contract because burnout leads to less activity leads to less results, and you end up back where you started, right? So nothing wrong with hustle zone, but eventually you're going to need systems, and we all start with the hustle. But then one of the dangers of creating systems, especially when you don't have mentorship, when you don't have support from people who know what they're doing, is you might start creating leverage, but you start creating systems, but you're kind of like leaving out. You're not willing to do some of the work in the beginning, like building organically. If social media is a way for you to start building your business and start getting some customers right away within a few weeks and start growing a team within a few weeks or a few months, you should do that. You shouldn't be afraid to go into the hustle zone. What happens is people want to avoid the hustle zone. They want to avoid, building their business in the way that's going to yield the results the fastest. And they kind of dive into doing systems in the beginning. And they do systems without mentorship, without support. They're kind of just playing around. They're buying courses or buying tools. They're buying ClickFunnels without really knowing how to use funnels, etc. And that can get you stuck in the boondoggle zone. And the boondoggle zone means you have systems. You maybe think you're smart because you have a lot of automation, but your results are really low. You do not want to be in the boondoggle zone. It's a different, in the hustle zone, when you burn out, that'll lead to frustration. If you stay in the boondoggle zone, you're going to get frustrated as well. But not only are you going to be frustrated, you're also going to be broke. At least in the hustle zone, you got some results. But sometimes people have to spend a little time in the boondoggle zone because they're setting up certain systems. So the results might not be yielding right away, but they have the right mentorship so that they don't spend too much time here, and then they can move into the freedom zone. So these are kind of like sometimes when people talk about, paid versus organic, or automated strategies versus organic strategies, they talk about it as if it's an either or, and it really doesn't need to be. If you guys are following me right now and all this is making sense, drop me at number 10 in the chat. I just want to know we are clear. So again, what I just described in terms of like going this path, then to this path, or this path into this path is kind of like an either or scenario. What I want to propose to you guys is, if you want to avoid burnout, if you want to avoid frustration and being broke, but you also want to create more leverage and results faster, the path for most people, not always, but most people that I recommend is that you go, what do you guys think it is? So you're always going to start in the startup zone. So you're going to want to go to the startup zone. What I recommend is you actually start with organic strategies as a network marketer, brand new in the business. Start with using social media, and more importantly, be using social media in a way that actually works and is authentic and is not deceptive. You're not cold prospecting random strangers. We teach you how to do it in a way that you actually enjoy doing, using social media, using attraction marketing, and you get results initially. You go into the hustle zone. This is investing your time initially to get those results. You can start making some money right away, but then you actually spend some time building systems as you're doing that, so that you can tee up the next phase of your career, which is ultimately moving into the freedom zone. And so when you do it this way, this is the way I recommend it, because most people, when they spend their time hustling, it's very hard to go from hustle to over here, because you end up being too busy to actually build the systems that you need to go over here. So what I recommend instead is, before you start building a huge business, before your business even hits 6 figures, you start working on some very basic systems. So you're not only in the hustle zone, but you're simultaneously actually operating in the hustle zone and the boondoggle zone, so that eventually you can move into the freedom zone and stay there. You actually stay in the freedom zone where you're making both money and you have time freedom. So I hope that makes sense. It's not an either or. What we do here at Attraction Marketing is we start you off, especially if you're brand new. Now, if you're experienced and already know, how to build organically, then we might move you from where you're at straight into here, and you'll be pretty quickly be able to go here because you're already producing results. We can get you into systems a lot faster. But boondoggle doesn't necessarily mean bad. It just means that you're spending some time creating something and you're not going to get results for the time that you're spending building it. But if you're building it without mentorship or coaching, or a coach that you trust, if you're building in the boondoggle zone without mentorship, you're very much guaranteeing that you're going to stay there. And the same thing with the hustle zone. If some of you actually you hustle a lot, but you stay in the startup zone because you're not yielding any results. So again, that is a lack of mentoring and support that is causing that issue, where you can't even get to the point where you're in the hustle zone making money. You're in the startup zone hustling a lot without making money. And so that's the roadmap that we have here for you guys at Attraction Marketing. We go from startup zone to the hustle zone, but pretty quickly get you into start learning how to build systems so that eventually you never reach the point of burnout. You never reach that point. You never go there, because it's very hard to get out of the burnout zone once you get there. Because at that point, you may have a big business with a lot of team members, but you have no, you're basically working crazy hours to support them, as many leaders do. You want to start spending some time getting no results with the time you're spending, but building systems so that eventually you can shift to permanent time freedom. Now, what does this look like? Again, drop me if you guys are getting this. Give me your biggest takeaway in the chat right now. Tell me, what is your biggest takeaway from what I've covered so far here with the yield versus leverage quadrant here that was created by my mentor Tim Irway, who's also the CEO of Attraction Marketing. I'd love to hear what your biggest takeaway here is, especially as it applies to you. Now, I want to share something else because I want to, give you some information as to what this looks like and what this looks like from a practical standpoint. I've done the hustle and organic, but don't have the systems. Perfect. Okay, great insight. That's awesome that you're noticing that. Starting right away to make money. That's right. You want to move into the hustle zone to start making money, but you don't want to stay there too long. Otherwise, you might burn out, especially if you're introverted. Now you're an extrovert, A-type personality that loves talking to people and you don't mind engaging all day long every day. Then great, that might be good for you, but the majority of your people probably are not going to be that way. So you still want to be able to create systems for them to be able to leverage as well. Now, I want to share something else. So now, I've shared this before, and these are basically the skills, represent the 12 skills of an attraction marketer, the 12 skills that we teach here at Attraction Marketing. We have attract, influence, enroll, and duplicate. Notice none of these skills are prospecting. We don't teach prospecting here at Attraction Marketing. We teach people how to attract. But then there's different ways to attract. There's active building, and there's another way to say to name this would be social engagement. So that would be active building as a way of socially engaging on social media, spending more time. So active means you're more in the hustle zone type of thing. Leverage building, it can also be called content marketing. So this is you creating content to attract people to you. This is a one-to-many approach. And then automated building, to translate it, means basically you're actually using either ads or funnels or websites to do more of this work, to do more of the attraction, influence, and enrolling, and basically automating your business. And for those of you wondering, can you fully automate a network marketing business? Yes, you can, but you can't start there. Otherwise, you will end up in the boondoggle zone, infinitely. And also, there's a lot of offers out there that offer to do things for you. We will build your downline for you. We'll build your funnels for you that build your downline for you. I'm here to tell you that those offers, excuse my French, cover the ears of any children nearby. Those offers are bullshit. Those offers do not work, because in order for you to be able to build a network marketing business, or any business for that matter, you need to learn skills. So it doesn't mean you can't hire people to do stuff for you, but it's best you hire them after you learn the skills to be able to do it yourself. Otherwise, how do you know whether the people you hired to build it for you are doing a good job? And how do you know how to best leverage what they're creating for you if you don't know how to create it and use it yourself? So I'm just saying, any done for you, we will build your downline for you. We'll build funnels that build your downline for you. Those type of offers are just, plain BS. They don't work. And I guarantee I've been around longer than any of those people teaching network marketers how to build online. And I've been through all of it. I've gone through all those offers. I even tried to do that myself in a at least authentically and with good intentions, try to do more of the work for my students. And it always ends up where they just don't get results because they don't learn the skills to be able to take over what it is we've done for them. So we don't do a lot of done for you here, because without the skills, you can't do done for you. Now, we do have done for you services after you have the skills. We offer our students our opportunity to get stuff done for them as they're going through mentorship, so that they're both learning the skills, but also if they need to create more leverage with their time, then they can have people that do stuff for them. Now, going back to this thing here. So I talked about, active building, which requires more time, is socially engaging. Leverage building is content marketing. That still requires your time, but at least you're able to, you're attracting people. You're not engaging with people one-on-one as much as you're attracting people through content. And then advertising, automated building, is basically exactly what it says, completely automated. And so as we go further down in terms of these skills, attract, influence, and enroll, and duplication and duplicate, there are ways of doing it where you're investing more of your time, but eventually you want to get into creating more leverage. And the ultimate form of leverage is automation. So while this will require less time, eventually you'll be spending more money to make the automation work. But the key thing, before that scares you, what you want to be before you start doing that is you want to be profitable. So that's the key. If you're profitable when you're spending money, you guys tell me, if you guys got $2 or $3 back for every dollar you spent on advertising or whatever, how much money would you spend? Tell me in the chat right now. How much money would you spend if for every dollar you gave me, I gave you $2 or $3 back? Because that's essentially what being profitable using automation is. It's like now you're able to use money and have a predictable return that provides a way better return than any type of other investment you can possibly do. Better than stocks, better than crypto, better any of that stuff. Because literally, for every dollar you spend, within a few days or a week, you get $2 or $3 back. Then that's freaking awesome. And so that's where you want to go, but you want to do that with mentoring and support. And the beautiful thing is you can do all those things: attract your prospects, build influence in a relationship with them, and enrolling, which is actually the easy part if you've done the first two things right. And then you can create duplication in an active way by onboarding your team members and supporting them one-on-one. But eventually, maybe you create training videos and some sort of system so they can onboard on themselves and find training for themselves. And ultimately, you want to create something very sophisticated where not only are you developing your team members through content and systems, but you're also developing leaders. That's what creates ultimate automation. And so that's in terms of what we teach here at Attraction Marketing. That's how how our students create leverage. But we always start here, and we want to end up here in terms of what we teach and do here at Attraction Marketing. And you can say, again, this is the startup zone, and this is the freedom zone. Now you may ask, what is what are some leverage strategies for content marketing that work right now that allow me to reach more people, attract more people to me, but don't require me to engage as much with people? And so we have that going on right now. What do you think that is? What's one content marketing strategy that every single person here can deploy that wouldn't take them very long to do, that potentially, if you do it right, if you have the right message, can attract people to you? What might that be? And I'm just looking at some of you are saying, I spent everything I have. If you got $1 for every, or you got $2 or $3 for every dollar you spent, that's literally a magic slot machine. So the answer in terms of one content marketing strategy, you guys don't have any ideas? What's a content marketing activity that you can do that can reach potentially a lot of people and attract people to you for the first time? So Facebook Live is actually, it potentially can attract new people, but a Facebook Live is more about building influence in a relationship with people you've already attracted. So for example, you guys right here, some of you guys know me really well. Some of you guys don't know me really well. You're seeing me for the first time, hearing from me for the first time. What I'm doing here is more of I'm using content marketing, but I'm doing it to build influence. I'm building it to add value, to demonstrate to you that I can help you. So that's more of an influence activity that I'm doing right now with Facebook Live. Some of you and many of you are saying Reels, and you would be correct. Reels would fall under you doing content marketing to attract people. You can also use Reels to build influence with an existing audience, to drip on them value. So you may, you have some influencers you may have found online. You may have found them because their reel or their TikTok was shown to you for the first time, and then you started following them, and then you're following, and then you're getting all their other reels as well. So you're doing that to build influence. Some of those reels, or maybe even in your bio, you have a call to action so that people can actually raise their hand and say, hey, I'd like to learn more about what you're doing. And that begins the enrollment phase of this process. And then the duplication phase is basically teaching that to other people on your team. And so you guys are exactly right. Content marketing is a way of creating leverage. Now, those of you who do a lot of reels and TikToks, you know that it is still time intensive. You're still in the hustle zone when you're doing that, because if you stop creating that content, then your business stops producing. And so the same for your team members. So while it is more leveraged and you can potentially go viral, you're not always going to go viral, and you need to, and even your viral stuff eventually will fade, and you need to keep producing more content. So you're still investing your time, but definitely you're creating more leverage. So that would be more of like you're in the hustle zone. And I used to do that for a long time, consistently create content, but eventually I wanted to shift to the freedom zone permanently. So that's when I went all in on learning automation, learning about how to create funnels that capture leads for me, that drip on them and deliver content, create a relationship where I can send an email and have 60 people like we have right now on a Facebook Live learning what we're doing here. And then, have pages that basically allow people to buy on their own without anyone being in front of them. And so that's the ultimate form of leverage. And then advertising as well. You guys may notice, we've impacted more people in the world. I probably have over 1,000 students now who have built six-figure business. But when you look at my personal Facebook profile, you don't see a lot of followers. I hardly ever post on my personal profile. Same with my Instagram. I'm just like, there was a time when I was like the number one influencer in a social network. And, but then that social network went out of business. And that further taught me that I really needed to go into automation so that I can be permanently in the freedom zone. But two, I really didn't want to continue to sustain the level of social media activity that I was doing before. I'm kind of introverted. I like to keep to myself. I don't like to share a lot, and I was sharing a lot at the time early in my career, sharing everything about my life on social media. But eventually I just kind of wanted to be a normal person from a personal standpoint. And just when spending time with my family, when spending time doing something, I didn't want to be documenting every part of my life. I didn't want to be saying, oh, I'm doing this with my team or anything. I just wanted to do it and then be done, and then spend time with my family. And especially today, now that I have a son and a wife. And so for me, that was the ultimate freedom. And that's where I live today. But it's not where I started. I started building organically. Social media was a viable strategy. I started building on MySpace and eventually to another social network called Better Networker. And then after that is when I chose, I need to create permanent time freedom through automation. And so that's how the phases went. And that's what we allow you to do here. We'll allow you to go through a roadmap, a journey that follows that path of starting you off in the startup zone. You go into the hustle zone, but then we also simultaneously, you're working on systems so that eventually you can achieve permanent time freedom, so that if you ever want to, sooner rather than later, you can choose to be less and less active on social media if you want to. And there's even strategies that don't require you to be on social media. So that's what I wanted to share today, guys. If you are new to our